What is verb? A verb shows the happening or state of something. It is an action word. It can show, if somebody does something like, this cat sleeps all day. If something has done onto someone like, a stranger patted the stray cat. The state of someone or something like, the cat is alive fortunately. Explanation. Verb is the most important part of any sentence. A sentence does not make sense without a verb in it. There are some instances where a one-word answer can make up for a whole sentence like, yes or indeed, etc., without the use of verb, but these responses are not used in formal writing. Verbs can also consist of more than one word. Example. The children were playing in the backyard. He is running very fast. Types of verbs. These are the main kinds of verbs: linking verbs, transitive verbs, intransitive verbs, reflexive verbs, auxiliary verbs and modal verbs. Linking verbs. Linking verb is a verb that connects a sentence together. It does not mean anything on its own but makes sense when used in a sentence. Common linking verbs that are used are is, are, was, were. Examples. The birds are flying high up in the sky. She is always looking fabulous. Action verbs. Action verbs show action. They create an image of the happening in your head. There are two kinds of action verbs, transitive and intransitive. Transitive verbs. The verb in a sentence that has a direct object is known as transitive verb. The verb should have something on which it is performed. The sentences containing transitive verbs can also be converted from active voice to passive voice. Example. The batsman hit the ball hard. She walked the streets alone. Intransitive verbs. The verb in a sentence that does not have a direct object is known as intransitive verb. The sentences containing intransitive verbs cannot be converted from active voice to passive voice. Example. The lion cub sleeps. The house is flawed. Auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs help the main verb in a sentence and are called helping verbs. Auxiliary verbs, when used with ordinary verbs, help in changing the tenses, mood or voice of a sentence. They also help in making negatives and interrogatives of sentences. Auxiliary verbs are also simply called auxiliaries. Common words that come under this category are as follows: is, are, was, were, have, do, etc. Examples. I was going to the shop. The car door was opened. Modal verbs. Modal verbs are the verbs that are used before the ordinary verbs to show meanings such as possibilities, permission, certainty, etc. They can just simply be called modals. Common modal verbs that are used are as follows: can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, must, ought. Examples. You dare not do such a thing. You must be Sarah's sister. You could have stopped them. Reflexive verbs. Reflexive verbs are those whose subject and direct object are the same. They refer back to the same thing or person. Examples. She stays home herself. The cat cleans itself.